I've been in the lolita community since I was 13, and I've been submerged in fandom culture for much longer, let's say since I was 10 or 11. If you're around my age and considering getting into the lolita community, especially if you've been in fandom culture before, I want you to genuinely, seriously reconsider. I am being oh so serious. You probably thought, oh, the dresses are cute, and everyone seems so cool. Now, while many lolitas are extremely welcoming, and I found some of my best friends to the online community, I've also faced and seen some putrid toxicity. Maybe you've already been in toxic online spaces, notably fandoms like Voltron, Homestuck, or Steven Universe, or at least those are the ones I was in. Maybe you've even been in platforms like Amino or Kick. I've been on them too. I'm here to help you compare the two, analyze the lolita community a little bit, and maybe give you some sort of insight. Disclaimer, I do not and cannot speak for the entirety of fandoms. Fandom culture is vast and extremely widespread. I generalize quite often in this essay, taking from a lot of my own experiences. So please, if you see something that does not apply to you or your fandom, do not take it personally. I am speaking primarily from my own experiences and what I've heard online. Please keep in mind as well that most of the lolita community is not bad. Most lolitas are good, kind people. It is just the few that stand out that make a huge negative impact. For the sake of organization, I'll be dividing the subject into 3 parts. All 3 parts will be about aspects of online spaces and communities and how they're utilized in fandom and lolita. Anonymity has been part of the internet since the dawn of time, or at least the dawn of the internet. People are cautious to give out personal information that everyone can see, although giving out information like your sexuality, pronouns, and nationality have become relatively commonplace. You don't need people to know everything about you to interact with them, about your interests and converse. After all, anonymity comes with security and safety, right? This is where the lolita community and fandoms branch off, but also merge. In fandom culture, people use anonymity as a tool for protection, many times to keep their online presence and in real life separate. They can be themselves on the internet, can be a faceless person, but still express their personality to a fullness that they can't in daily life. Many people in fandom spaces do not post their faces, only texting and tweeting and posting their art and writing, sometimes thoughts. Even if you do show your face, it is not quite often that people give 2 fucks about what you look like. You share an interest with them and are both extremely passionate about it, and that bond is enough. It's not to say that enjoying the same media will mean 2 people are the same, just to clarify. On the other hand, in the lolita community, almost everyone posts cord and makeup pictures, full body fit checks, and close-up pictures of their accessories. Here is where the difference between the fandom and the lolita comes in. In the lolita community, anonymity scarcely exists. Sure, you can post stickers on your face and be as mystique as you want about your interests, but you will always have to show yourself to some extent. Anonymity in the lolita community, as it exists in many other internet spaces, only thrives on online image boards such as 4chan and lolcow. It is almost always used negatively, and in the lolita community, it is only used for aggression, almost never support. I won't be bringing up any recent drama in either lolita or fandom, as it's constantly changing and to not spark any conflict, but I will say this. When someone in a fandom is harassed, anonymity comes to their advantage. While it may hurt, they still have a blanket surrounding them to keep them from attacks on their appearance and looks. There's a division between the person and the persona. In the lolita community, however, when someone is harassed, anonymity only comes to their disadvantage. They have no blanket of security to protect them from the personal insults based on appearance and cords. Nothing to wrap around themselves to shield from arrows and arrows of hatred. Anonymity is used against them, so that lolitas can hate on a person without revealing themselves. There may be a divide between internet presence and person, but the curtain is thin, much thinner than it is in fandom, simply because you're posting mostly yourself online and not your thoughts. When you first enter the lolita community, keep to yourself. Post your cords to a close circle or a private account. If you don't, you may be nitpicked down to your bones, based on your appearance and your body and your dress and your living conditions and everything you've displayed online. You'll be given unsolicited constructive criticism to the point where it becomes borderline harassment. When a community is not based on the bonds of an interest with endless possibilities, but instead on the bonds of a material fashion with rules and guidelines, this is bound to happen. That is not to say that the rules of Lolita should not be followed. simply that they've been used as a tool against the community so much that it gets kind of, well, harmful. There it is again. The Lolita community is not a fountain of creativity and inspiration. People don't get together and rant about their headcanons because there are none. People don't gush over art, whether incredibly skilled or from a beginner, simply because they have creativity and love and passion. Instead, they sit around and compliment or critique someone's chord from a very critical and quite often condescending perspective. It is much more restricting, and while I could go on a rant about how the rules are really a form of liberation from society's expectations, I will not. Let's make this clear and simple. If something is harmless, people in fandoms can be more compromising. They will usually not attack someone for their important, harmless views. Perhaps they will point out discrepancies or how they're wrong, but they will not usually target someone unless the person has truly harmful beliefs or actions. Discourse, however, happens frequently. Now, the Lolita community can be supportive, and it will be. It is super duper supportive most often. However, there are so many cases where it isn't, where people are harassed for just starting out or having a different harmless opinion, that this becomes an issue to a point where you can't ignore it. I'm not saying that if a person has genuinely harmful beliefs, they should be ignored. The issue should be addressed and that person held accountable. What I mean to say is that the Lolita community is bad at managing its criticism and who to direct it to, quite frequently. This criticism can quickly turn to harassment, and this harassment can be very, very harmful. The amount of times I've seen a trans person harassed because they're seen as a threat, or seen a plus-size person posted on 4chan because they're plus-size, no other reason, is incredibly frequent. Again, these are quote-unquote issues that would cause no issues in fandom culture. Rather, the transphobia and fatphobia would be considered the real problem. In local and international Lolita communities, most people will turn a complete blind eye. I'd like to repeat myself and say that most Lolitas, the majority, are not like this. But when it happens, when someone is deeply harmed or impacted, this drives them away from the community. Fandoms are by no means a safe space either. They can and will have drama, and in many ways compare to the Lolita community in levels of toxicity. The last and final piece of the puzzle is the differences and similarities between the communities online. In the Lolita community, money plays a valuable part in whether you can be a part of the community. You don't need to have an incredible income, but you do need funds to join the community. In fandoms, all you need is access to the internet. Hell, even not that sometimes. People in the Lolita community tend to be in their 20s and 30s due to when the fashion was popularized. People in fandoms, however, can be from anywhere from 13 to 70, sometimes older, sometimes younger. This age gap in fandoms means that people can hang out with people much, much older or younger, which is concerning and can lead to dangerous situations. But many tend to talk and become friends with people their age. Grooming and pedophilia are major issues in fandoms. There is a high likelihood that if you have been in fandom, you have been groomed. It is a very unfortunate, but very real topic that continues to be unaddressed by many to this day. In the Lolita community, age gap is both a major difference and not. There are rare cases of grooming and such in Lolita communities, from what I'm aware, but there is just as much of a difference in age, quite often. Lolita communities hang out not only online, but also in real life. This age gap can make for quite an awkward hangout, or not. It really depends on the crowd. I'm the youngest in my Lolita community, and no one seems to care. We have fun, we enjoy each other's presence, we do random activities. Age gaps can cause quite the argument in fandoms, but I don't see it sparking up as much conflict in Lolita communities. That isn't to say that ageism isn't there. I've heard plenty of younger Lolitas complain about being babied by older Lolitas, who in turn complain about having to babysit younger Lolitas. There are issues within the Lolita community that are comparable to grooming, and that is primarily the fetishization of the fashion. If you know anything about Lolita, you will know it is an anti-sexualization movement to most to wear it. Still, the fashion attracts weirdos and fetishizers galore, and cutting them off from the Lolita community is a must. While most of the community does a good job protecting themselves from fetishists and sissies, transphobia and a fear of trans women almost, which dips its toes into TERF ideology, is unfortunately relatively commonplace and is used as an excuse to keep the community safe. Another comparable issue within fandom culture would be the existence of pro-shippers, who are those who ship and romanticize abuse and illegal relationships. They tend not to be welcomed within most spaces, and rightfully so. However, there is a very neat divide between what is right and wrong in most fandom spaces. In Lolita, that line is muddled and taken advantage of. And finally, last but not least, there is neurodivergence and queerness, which plays a big part in both fandom culture and lolita communities. They both attract misfits, people who do not fit into general society's perception. This makes for both communities and culture being quite welcoming to the oddballs of society. Both can be mediums of self-expression, and both can make a person more comfortable within themselves. And both come with their own struggles. The Lolita community is a wonderful myriad of fashion and passion, but also harbors sentiments of toxicity and rumors that are not as widespread as in fandom. Meanwhile, fandom culture branches out in many, many more ways, both positively and negatively. If you've been in one, there's a good chance you'll get used to the other pretty easily. That's it for today. Apologies for any mic problems, and if I sounded rather breathy. This is my first video essay, and I hope you enjoyed. Please consider dropping a follow on my Instagram. Goodbye!